I love it here. What actually happens when you stop working early? Everyone tells you that retirement is a non-stopping vacation. Nobody warns you about the defining silence of your first Tuesday morning without a job. Hi, I'm Lisa with Journey with the Cars. Subscribe, comment, like, and share these videos. There was no alarm, no commute, no inbox quietly filling itself with other people's urgency. There's just you, a cup of coffee going cold in your hands, and a strange hollow ring where the noise of your old life used to be. The corporate ladder doesn't slowly fade out the way you imagine it will. It simply vanished overnight, and you are left standing in the dirt wondering who you actually are when no one is counting on you to show up. What happens to your soul when your worth is no longer tied to a productivity or a paycheck? I had spent decades measuring myself in deadlines, meet, problem solving, and ladder climbing. I assumed that stepping away from it all would feel like relief. Instead, my identity fractured the moment I stepped into the garden. The person who had answers in the meeting suddenly didn't know what to do with an open afternoon. I kept reaching for a title that was no longer there, like a tongue searching for a tooth that had been pulled. You've been sold a lie about permanent leisure and golden sunsets. The truth of stopping early is far more complex and in the end, far more beautiful. It isn't really about quitting at all. It's about the deeply uncomfortable process of reforming yourself when you no longer have a role to hide behind. For the first few weeks, I filled the silence with frantic projects as a business alone could provide. I still mattered. I painted, I reorganized the garage no one would ever see. I was retired, and yet I was still running from the same quiet question I've been outrunning my whole career. The garden is what finally slowed me down, though not in a gentle postcard way, the brochure promises. Soil doesn't care about your resume. A tomato plant will not be rushed, flattered, nor negotiated with. It answers only to the sun, water, and patience. And it taught me a humbling lesson that growth happens on a timeline I do not control. For a person used to forcing outcomes, learning to wait was its own small grief. But somewhere between the weeding and watching the panic begins to lose its grip. What I didn't expect was how loud my own thoughts would become once the external noise was gone. With no meetings to fill, the hours, the buried questions surfaced one by one. Had I spent my best years on the right things? Who was I beneath the job that had quietly become my whole personality? These were not pleasant questions, and there was no manager to delegate them to. The garden gave me nowhere to hide, and strangely, that turned out to be the gift. You cannot rebuild a self you refuse to look at honestly. Slowly, a different rhythm took hold, one dictated not by quarters and targets, but by season. I learned to measure a day by what the light was doing rather than what calendar demanded. Mornings became noticeable rather than achieving. The hum of the soil, the slow turn of the year, the small ritual of tending to something alive, these became the new architect of my time. It's a pace that would have horrified my younger self, and one I now wouldn't trade for anything. So when people ask whether I miss it, I tell them the truth. Stopping early didn't hand me a finished, content life. It handed me a blank one. And the terrifying exhilaration work of deciding what to write on, the identity crisis was real. The silence was real. But on the other side of that discomfort is something the glossy retirement ads never mentions. a self that is no longer borrowed from a job description. I love it here. Not because it is easy, but because for the first time in a long time, the life I'm living is unmistakably my own. Be great.